I'll be sure we did this.
At 6 o'clock, if you all please stand and join me in start the famous pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. If your August 10th, 2026 City Council meeting, we'll begin with roll call. Mayor Preston.
Jack Hills.
Not here.
Barry Wilson.
Present.
Andrew Flett. Here. Max Curtis.
Here.
Jared Davis.
Here.
Larry Greathouse. Here. That's not.
Thank you, Charlie. Has council had a chance to review the minutes of our July 27th meeting? If so, I entertain a motion to approve. Jared so moves. Second by Andrew. Comments? Call for a vote. All in favor, show of hands. All opposed, motion carries 4-0. Agenda items. First is a park bench policy. Are we ready to have that discussion? Or does that need table again? There's been some confusion. We were under the impression a couple meetings ago that the park bench policy was Main Street driven. Apparently that's not the case. There has been a request to, I guess, Larry, what we need to decide is if, how do you want to set the policy on who makes the decisions, whether to allow those, or do we want to have a policy at all? What was your take?
I think if we have, it would be my feeling that if we have a policy, it should be Bobby's board that makes the policy to be approved by the city council. And then, let them talk about it for a while, and see if they would want to do this. And then if they do, bring it before us, before the council, and then let the council, sign on to that or not.
I think there was some thought that we would do to honor every mother or grandmother, and there'd be people calling, and we'd have trips surrounded by benches. The one request today was just to have a bench that honored mothers who had lost a child or something along that line. So I don't know that we would get overwhelmed with those. But in light of what Larry said, does council have any comments on how they want to move forward with the idea of allowing benches on a per request basis?
I'm fine with the Parks Department coming up with some sort of policy, presenting it to us, and then we can discuss it and talk about it from there.
Alderman, so you threw a hand up. You got something to add to that?
Well, I just wanted to clarify what was going on with the bench, if you guys needed it. If you don't, I won't have to, but I kind of brought some paperwork and everything. Basically, quick story, there's a lady that passed, her daughter passed away, Lauren Hughes, and her daughter was Layton Hughes. She wanted to put a memorial in the Tripton Park that was honoring just Layton. So I kind of countered that and said, if we did this, it wouldn't be focused on just one individual, it would be focused on everyone who lost a child. And we were talking back and forth, and she said that she would be willing to put up some money towards that if we could have a plaque that said in honor, or donation or contributed to by Layton Hughes. And that's kind of where the confusion was, because I was kind of part of that, but it's not a Main Street event at all. It's through the funeral home and through her. So that's where the confusion was. And I have paperwork if you guys want to see it. If not, we can table it. I'll get with Bobby later. Totally up to you guys.
I wouldn't mind to see information on that. At our last meeting, we kind of talked about it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the request that's coming in here. It just opens the door.
100%. And me and the mother had a good talk, and I told her the same thing. I said, we can't do it just for one individual, but maybe a wide variety of it. And it's still in the works, but I went ahead and printed off all of our monument bench prices and then the paper that goes with it. So again, I just wanted to kind of show you guys what we were thinking. I don't even know where she wants to put it at or anything like that, but it would be a wide variety instead of just a focus on one individual.
That's fine. We can kind of peruse this information. I'll make sure we set a copy for everybody.
I'm gonna be 6, I apologize. I didn't know how
That's
many.
more than enough.
Okay, perfect.
But one thing I know that we did discuss last time is trying, if we're gonna have a bench that potentially has some sort of plaque placed on it, we would want a bench that is uniform with what we currently have.
Sure.
This needs to go to policy. But you know, right now we have black metal benches, without, I'm not sure, powder coating and whatnot. And I think one of those benches could be purchased, obviously for a price, and a plaque, that is agreed upon by all parties that would go on there, a certain size and whatnot, and then it would at least stay uniform throughout the park system, and not just potentially at Tripton Park, which I do think we need some benches around the playground area. There's really kind of a lack of them. But also on the trail, the Skytech Trail, there's one bench that's down there. I mean, that would be an ideal place to maybe place a couple of benches along that trail as people walk, they'd have an opportunity to sit down if they wanted to. So
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that, from my perspective, it's not a closed topic at all, but I just think it has to make sense for everyone.
Totally agree. If you guys have any questions, let me know, and then I'll just wait to hear from you.
Yep.
All right, thank you guys.
So, want to add this do some research and add it to the next agenda?
Yeah, I think that would be fair enough, Bobby, we can try to talk at some point.
Yeah,
I think,
one of the other things you guys brought up too was that the city just didn't have a policy in general, I put something on city property in general, so obviously this policy is specific to Lawrence.
yeah, there needs to be some guidelines, we'll try to do that.
Okay.
I'm glad to come to your meeting, Bobby.
Okay, please.
Next item on the agenda, we've got North Vernon Main Street. We'll start with the first reading of an ordinance creating a historic preservation commission.
I'll come on one second. I have copies for all of you. I actually don't have it on the timeline as the first reading, I just have it as a review, but it is the first reading, that's fine. So these copies I'm handing out to you, one are the comments I'm gonna make, just because I wanted you to have them in writing, but also a timeline of what that preservation commission steps look like. Greg Sekula is here, and if you guys would like to hear more on about what a commission does, and then Kayla also can answer legality questions. I know you guys have seen the ordinance. There are two immediate changes I would love to make to that ordinance. If possible, is changing it to a 5-member committee with 3 being mayor appointments and 2 being city council appointments. And then also, I believe there's a clause in it that says that they have to live within city limits, but most of our downtown building owners do not live within city limits, so I'd rather it say that they have to own property within the limits versus live. So I'm here tonight with Main Street because I assisted Kayla and Indiana Landmarks on behalf of the city in getting a rough draft of an ordinance together. Tonight's just the beginning of the Preservation Commission process. I received calls from downtown building owners who are understandably concerned about what this could mean for them. My hope is that Greg's insight tonight, if you have questions for him, will help provide some context around what that process looks like. I also have materials from the March 16th public meeting that I'm happy to email to everyone, as well as the physical copies that I handed out to you guys and the people in the crowd of the full timeline that was created outlining the process. So I have this down as just kind of an initial review and feedback so we can start the conversation about creating a historic preservation commission. We do have to have a historic preservation commission to receive funding from the state for the Preserving Main Street grant, and then moving into first and second final reading. So there is a little bit of a difference with this ordinance versus guidelines. So the work that's happened up to this point has just been focused on getting the framework in place so that a historic preservation commission can be established. Once that commission is established and seated, then those conversations about what the guidelines have start to happen. I don't want anyone to interpret the lack of communication up to this point as a lack of interest in hearing from our building owners. We're at a stage of establishing a commission that will create a formal process for having those conversations, because the ordinance being discussed now is just about seating it. The details about what historic preservation will actually look like in our downtown, what may be preserved, what guidelines may apply, and what that can mean for individual buildings coming into play during the development of those guidelines, that you guys will see. That is a process that will go in front of downtown business owners, the public, North Vernon City Council, Indiana Landmarks, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, the CDBG team from Preserving Main Street, and if there's any other community stakeholders. Downtown building owners, business owners, residents, and other community members, like I said, will have ample opportunity to participate in discussion about what preservation should look like in our community and what guideline makes sense for us. As the director of North Vernon Main Street, something that is incredibly important to me is that our downtown building owners should be, and should always be honestly at the center of this conversation. These are their buildings, they're the ones making the investments, it's their businesses, and in many cases, they're putting their own time and money into it, so it wouldn't make sense to not have them as a part of the guideline process. We want our downtown building owners to help lead the charge in determining what they want to see for their buildings. There will be conversations ahead about what they want to preserve, what we want to preserve, what needs to be changed, and what guidelines make sense to make those changes in the community. I think having a clear timeline and understanding each step of the process will help take some of that uncertainty out of this. I'm happy to answer any questions about what this timeline looks like. We have changed it from what you originally, or hopefully we'll change it from 3 to 5 members, so that way, one, it breaks up who's appointing people to the commission, and then the hope is that there will need to be like 2 people from the downtown community, or someone who has like reference to historic preservation, like Rusty preserving his house, or something along those lines. So ultimately, I just want everyone to know that they haven't missed their opportunity to have a voice in this process. This is just a first overview of the timeline, so that way we can seek the commission, and then we can move forward with setting those guidelines. I'm happy to answer any questions. So is Greg, he's happy to get any insight on what a commission does. I think the overarching thing for the commission is that they are not there to be, they're not a guard dog. Like, we're supposed to be working hand in hand to preserve downtown. I never want people to think that like the commission is acting as a guard dog to what they can do for their own building. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know Rusty's happy to answer any questions. Feel like I can answer any legal questions.
Anything for all, great.
Are there any requirements as far as who has to be on the board of 5 potentially, or?
There are not, I think that would be great if you guys want to set them, if we want to say that it needs to be 2 owners of downtown buildings. I know that I've heard from some downtown building owners that they're very interested in being a part of the commission. But like I said, I just think as of right now, from what Kayla and I have read from other people who have sent the ordinance, it's more like there needs to be 3 people from the city, or like 3 different appointments. So 3 coming from the mayor, 2 coming from city council, or opposite, it doesn't matter. And then there also are, I believe, 3 people acting as, I can't think of the word, but acting as.
Non-voting.
Thank you, yes, non-voting members. So, yeah.
So those non-voting members are the same, they can be anybody?
Yep. I think as long as they fit within that guideline of they need to own property within the city of North Vernon. Ideally, we would have the people who have a stake in downtown. Because the commission is for a set district, so it will be, if you guys pass the district, which would come up later when we talk about that, right, Kayla, they're gonna have to pass, that district would be the same outline as either what the historic district is or the Main Street district. They are 2 separate districts. They do not line. So, I'm happy to provide you with a map of both of those.
You say you have a map of the areas?
I can send you a map of the Main Street district and they're on, if you Google, it's a state district or a state map for the historic district. I think that source was.
The historic district doesn't come over here on this side, correct?
On which side? The historic district is like Walnut Street, 5th Street, Madison Avenue, O&M. It was set in, I think, like 2006. But outside of like these main 4 areas, it does not include those.
That's what I think.
Yeah. And then the Main Street district goes all the way over to St. Mary's, runs back in the neighborhoods of where Irish Hill is, and then comes up on the side of Trenton.
This is going to apply to commercial buildings,
Correct.
not homes.
Correct. Correct, which I think would make sense then if it lines up with what the historic district is. Yeah. And I think within the historic district, because I want to say there are like 50-ish buildings somewhere along those lines, so it would be there.
This is, this commission is maybe new to North Vernon, but it's not new to the state. There's many
It is not, and
communities that have a historic commission.
I also think that that is something that can create a little bit of stress because there are commissions that are more strenuous and there are commissions that are not. So in the ordinance, it says something along the lines of the commission may be able to say that you can paint your building a certain color. But from the design guidelines, when building owners sit in on that, they're like, I don't want you to tell me if I can paint my building or not paint my building, that's overarching thought process, we have no desire to tell people, well, I'm not on the commission, I'm just here representing because I am. But I don't foresee the commission having any desire. So
The
the
commission set their own rules.
commission setting the own rules, and all of those rules will have to come in front of you, the guidelines will come in front of you to be decided. The guidelines, like I said, will be created, I mean, there's a bunch of, downtown building owners behind us. The guidelines will be created by them, there will be plenty of public meetings for input on what they wanna see. But the idea is that they would work in aid with people who are not only keeping up their buildings, but if someone is making $100,000 investment in their building, we want to be able to hold the person accountable next to them to also make an investment in their building. There are some materials that Greg has sent over that I'm happy to forward to you about statistics on how a preservation commission has helped the property value of downtown and how it's changed communities for the better. But yeah, so this is like one of the very first steps we have to make when we're doing the Preserving Main Street grant. Granted, we are not in a super big rush to do this, we just wanted to get it in front of you guys so that way we can start moving forward because for an update for the Preserving grant, we are currently in the process of restoring the applications. So we are, all of the committee members who are scoring, which I am happy, so that would be Rusty Hamilton is scoring, there is Tyler Stock, there is Greg Hicks, Emily Robinson, and then Rhonda Lessenberger. So they are all in the process of rescoring, and we are hoping to have those numbers tallied and have letters back out to people, so that way they know where they're at in line, and then we can move forward with an architect. The architect has already been here in the community multiple times, looking at buildings, kind of scanning them to see what's going on with them and how we can move forward with the process. But we would need to have these guidelines in place so that way when we eventually get to the construction part of it, which we don't foresee construction grants being signed until later this year, so that way they're in place, so there's a little bit of teeth in the game when we start doing work. But again, all the building owners who have met with the architects know that they gave feedback on what they wanted to see with their building, and the architects originally gave a list of this could potentially be the work that you see, but also what work do you want to be done, it's your money that you're putting into it.
Question on the definitions of the interested parties that has currently states 7, is that the minimum or can any be added or removed?
For
On section 2, has like mayor, council, plan commission, short landmarks, state preservation officer. Are those required by statute? It has all-
Yes, so this is, Greg can speak more on this. This is the model ordinance from the state regarding what a preservation commission should look like. We just changed it to, we changed the number of people on the voting committee and all that stuff.
So to follow up on what Andrew's saying is that the interested parties, all of those are typically, have to be included or we wouldn't qualify for this grant, is that correct?
The state enabling legislation kind of outlines the content for what a preservation ordinance should include to keep it legally sound. So that's the reason your attorney followed that structure, was based on kind of those model guidelines. And interested parties by statute, the state enabling legislation does identify certain parties that have kind of a vested interest in preservation statewide. That will include organizations like Indiana Landmarks. That doesn't mean we're on the commission, it just means that we are supportive of your efforts to preserve your historic properties, and we monitor across the state activities that occur within communities relative to endangered properties, so we always are kind of interested in what local communities are doing with their historic resources.
I understand that. I think sometimes the Historic Landmarks Foundation, their ideas of what is historic and needs saved and the community that they're in are totally different.
We base it on, what is listed on the National Register, sound kind of national preservation standards, which is what guides the process of what we are advocating to save. So for example, in your historic district, you've got a historic district that's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And within that historic district, when it's listed on the National Register, it identifies properties that are contributing and not contributing to the district. So we generally are advocates for preserving buildings that are contributing to the historic district. And some of those could be rated outstanding or notable or contributing to the district. It doesn't necessarily denote condition of the building. It's based on, is this a significant building? So that is our litmus test for how we advocate for saving historic buildings.
Ultimately, though, it will come down to the 5 people seated on the commission and the guidelines that you guys set.
Well, Mike, I love all of the building owners that have made investments. There's multiple people in this room that have made the personal commitment and the financial commitment to be able to fix up a building or a home, and I love it. The thing that bothers me is the building owners that don't, and they let their buildings become dilapidated, and then we spend months or even years debating, should it be torn down, should it not be torn down? Indiana Landmarks tends to come in and say, well, that's an historic building. If the owner of that building doesn't want to do something with it, me as a former area plan commission member, either fix it or it comes down, or sell it to someone else who's gonna fix it. One of those things have to happen.
And we advocate for that. We certainly have demonstrated that with, for example, the Cone House on Jennings Street, which, we had an owner and we worked through that and came up with a strategy to save that building, and now it's one of the premier historic residences of North Vernon. So right. So we can, we're not necessarily advocating that the current owner continue bad behavior. We're interested in trying to find a solution to get the building to a position where it can be. I think it is important to note that the historic district and the Historic Preservation Commission cannot dictate that a property owner fix up a property. Ultimately, the goal of the commission and the district is to help guide changes when the owner makes the initiative to make the changes, to ensure that they're, in keeping with the character of the building and preserve that. But they cannot force, unfortunately, it's not an ordinance that forces an owner to make action on a property if they're not, readily willing to do so. So just to be aware that this tool doesn't, unfortunately, do that. Communities have adopted ordinances, Madison is a good example where they have kind of been very much, more aggressive with dealing with blighted properties, but that's outside of the local historic district toolbox that they have.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we have our area plan commission, we have our ordinance, building ordinance, person in lease, and whatnot, so it's always a challenge. I think that, I think there's a good base, and like I said before, this is not something new. This is throughout our state and other states.
Many of your peer communities in the region have it, New Albany, Jeffersonville, Scottsburg, Madison, all have local historic preservation commissions. You can see in those communities, investments being made, properties are being improved, it's not a stifling effort at all.
Can I ask you a question? So it doesn't make you fix up the buildings, it just ties your hands when you want to fix up the building, right? To fix it up to your standards.
Steve, we probably ought to get some.
Yeah, we're done there.
Because I can't really, I want everybody to be able to hear you.
Sure.
And so if you want to comment, I think we should come up to the podium.
Well, so any other questions for Alderman or Greg? Obviously, there are some building owners in here, so if any of you, Steve, will begin with you, want to come up to the podium, please state your name.
I'm Steve Gasser, so I'm all for getting something done with the course. I'm not so sure that the historic preservation, that, let's say we go to fix up, actually a lot of improvements that I made, say back in the Millers, everybody enjoyed that nice place. I don't think we would want to do that under, could be wrong, under historic. Or Vernon, Saudi, you name it, what's seen just a lot of, so I like old buildings and I like old modern touch to it. So I don't think historic preservation, you're not going to let it put in a nice state.
I would disagree with you. I think if you wanted to make an improvement through preserving Indiana Main Street, there might be a certain standard that you would have to adhere to. But if you're wanting to do work, I don't think this commission that's ultimately gonna be established with people like you on it would oppose you trying to make an improvement to the building. What this is trying to do is protect the investment you've already made.
So can they be, can I ask a question? Can they, improvements be, once we say, okay, we sign up for this Indiana historic preservation, can we, if we have a wood historic building, can, like the Masonic say it's in here, can I put all vinyl windows in there if I want to?
You would,
That's never been allowed that I've been around.
well, it's.
Dealing with landmark, I can tell you, I've dealt with
Or do they have to be
it.
So,
And that's not the way they
so
operate.
first of all, the commission is established by the city council. The commission becomes a unit of local government, just like the plan commission, the board of zoning review. It is a body of the city of North Vernon. Alright, so ultimately, you guys are the bosses of this commission. The commission, as Autumn mentioned, now, the first step is to get this ordinance passed, which establishes the foundation or the framework for creating a preservation program in the community. The second step would be to ideally get a commission established. So you get a group of people together who the city council appoints or whomever you decide makes those appointments. And those folks will then, their responsibility will be to advise you on creating guidelines for preservation in the community. Madison, for example, I will say, Madison has allowed for replacement windows in their buildings. Okay? Now, what the commission might say, Steve, is, Steve, you've got an opening that's 3 feet by 6 feet. We don't want you to create an opening that's 2 feet by 2 feet and fill in the rest with plywood. We want you to maintain that opening, and we want you to go with a window style that meets the size of the original opening and style of the original opening. We may be open to material changes, and your guidelines, what happens is you create a set of design guidelines. And those guidelines say what's recommended and not recommended. Those are published guidelines that will be created by the commission. All commissions work with those guidelines. And the point of those guidelines is they're a public document, so that document's available from the city, from the commission. So when you buy a building, you can go through it. Before you buy a building, you can go through those guidelines and say, okay, this is what I want to do to my building. This is what they're saying is recommended and not recommended.
So it doesn't have to follow any historic guidelines.
Well, those would be considered historic guidelines. I mean, I know the work that you've been doing. I would say anything that you've done is out of bounds with, you've done a great job with the buildings you've done.
Well, I appreciate that.
But
I think the question that needs to be answered though is if Steve is using his own money, these aren't any federal grants or state grants or anything, or historic preservation grants, he's using his own dollars, then the decision on whether he's allowed vinyl windows will ultimately be established by the commission, and Indiana Landmarks will have no say in that. That's what they want to hear.
the commission is what makes that decision.
Not Indiana Landmarks.
Not Indiana.
Yes, that's, okay.
So all those guidelines that you guys will sit and set, we won't set and say that you have to put in those, like you don't have to put in.
So let me ask you this, like Tia built a really nice deck on the back of that building, would that be allowed going forward from this point? But you're saying we can create that, if we want to have wooden decks, vinyl decks,
That would be,
the commission can do.
the commission would decide, set guidelines with what they recommend and not recommend. And
If Indiana Landmarks don't come in and say, no, we can't do that.
we don't do that anywhere. That's not, if you've got a preservation commission, go to Madison, we're not there, the commission meets every month, we're not there saying you can't or
Right,
cannot.
that's what I'm a little concerned, because I always hear horror stories about how you can't get anything done in Madison. I know they're doing some good thing, but I've heard it takes
I think a
forever.
lot's being done in Madison.
Well, they're doing all right, but I'm saying
Right.
the process.
Well, and again,
You've
that's.
heard it from builders.
Yeah,
So many people-
that depends on your local process.
So if we can dictate that, right?
The commission typically meets once a month. I would say, majority of the commissions, I'd say 90 to 95% of what goes before them, they approve.
But the commission guidelines are set by you as a local, and they are approved by you as a local.
They get published, and that
Indiana
becomes,
Landmarks
that
is
becomes the
not
blueprint.
sitting on that.
We're gonna help guide, train, provide you with some examples. I mean, you follow the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. I mean, there are certain standards.
So I guess it will really depend on the opinions of going forward. So if we adopt this or whatever, we're at the mercy of whatever the city wrote.
But again, the intent here is to provide some safeguards for the community to preserve the integrity of your building. I mean, if what you've done in Miller's Tavern, you spent a lot of money restoring and doing beautiful work to that. If the guy next door says, you know what, I don't want to spend the money, I'm going to slap some vinyl or I'll corrugated metal on the storefront and not restore it at all and just go as cheap as I can, are you okay with
Yeah,
that?
when we talk about that, we need some regulation.
Well,
I don't know if it needs to be historic necessarily, because I don't know what that even defines, like, except for windows and stuff. But like, if you tell me there's a back part falling down on one of my buildings, I'm getting ready to restore, but that 10 feet needs torn down. If they say don't do it, then what? I'm just kind of stuck with that.
Well,
10 feet.
again,
If they say, well, no, we want that stuff.
part of what they look at is what is your proposal or plan for what you want to do, okay? So if you said, you know, and they also, you know, when you do guidelines, you look at what's the primary facade that's visible from the street versus the back of the building, which you might only see through an alley. You know, typically commissions are less restrictive in the backs of buildings you can't see. I mean, a lot of times this is common sense, but it's also recognizing that you want to preserve and those character defining features of your building so you don't lose that character.
And our folks in North Burns.
But I think the key point is that this commission that we're establishing is gonna have the discussion about all of those things. That we're not getting a boilerplate from another community and then we're gonna fit it into that.
And I'm okay with that.
We're gonna have group discussions like all of that.
By the way, I thought we said it might include housing too. You guys said it didn't, but I was told housing.
It would include anything that falls within the boundaries
So
of
there's
that
houses in
district.
there.
But there are no houses within that district.
And again,
There is one residential house within the district.
What about apartments above?
Well, that's
that's,
not the same. It's not regulating any inside, so it wouldn't matter, it would still be the facade outside, but there's only one residential house.
so what will happen is if this ordinance is approved, the next step would be to establish the boundaries of an area defined that you as a community would decide. There would be a separate ordinance that would be established, and I've provided some copies of samples to show you, and that would include a map that outlines the boundaries. And anything within the boundaries would fall within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission.
The commission is all set up from people in our community.
Right.
Yeah, I think, if I can make a comment real quick, please. So I think what's missing when you read this document is a human element of what's happening in this document, right? So it looks like, oh, well, they can do this, they can do this, they can do this is the police and there's nothing else. But there's a bunch of human people that are looking at each request and saying, does this make sense financially? Does this make sense for the city? Does this make sense for the building? It's all about people that you guys pick, whoever picks, whatever we choose to pick, that says, does this make sense in our community, and is it good for our community, and does it create investment in our community, and it doesn't make it better, right? This is not like we're running around trying to knock your building over to make be the building Nazis, for God's sake. This is simple, right? I mean, I understand it's restrictive, and if people have comment, that's why we put it in front of the public, so that you can have a comment. So you can make a change if you want to make a change, so you can choose who gets put on the commission. All those things are possible because we're opening it to the public right now. But what you don't see in this is all the space between what this means and what this means, which is human people are going to look at an option and say, does this make sense for the community and for the building and for the building owner? You can't see that in this document, but it's there. It's the whole purpose of the commission. So, you know, if we can get some support for this idea and get a shaping of how this thing should go together and what it should look like and who should be involved, then we make it about this community for this community and not about someone else or anybody else or even Indiana landlords at the end of the day. So let's get through the process and make it what it should be for this community and not what it is in the
So
first
you're
draft.
saying throw this 14-page ordinance out, right?
No, I'm not saying that.
And create our own. because there's a lot of
You're
strong
an attorney
regulatory
today?
language in here.
Have you become an attorney?
No.
Okay. I mean, I think we've got a bunch of people who
That's
have
beyond the point, Rusty.
well, Simeon, we have a bunch of people who have mountains of experience with these kinds of things.
Yeah, we need to
be able to hear the
public
conversation
debate here.
So if somebody wants to stand up and make another comment,
I will.
state your name, please.
Simeon Stearns. So I emailed each one of you, my concerns about the language that was presented in this 14-page ordinance.
That was your email? I got an email, I didn't know who authored this document.
That's ours.
Yeah,
Oh, I know, there's nothing on it that says who it's from, so I'm glad I know it's
that's
from.
for me. So section 14, for example, that's concerning. Interested parties list, that's concerning. Composition appointment. See, kind of what Steve was saying, and what Madison has went through, because I've talked to some business owners in Madison myself as well. The increased regulation is going to discourage investment. I mean, delay on projects, increased costs. You know, I got a quote for replacing my pond, $20,000, okay? But they see it, it's $100,000. There's payment, there's payment.
Who's they?
Well, when I got
You don't have to go through an architect for the commission. The money for preserving Main Street is completely different. So for preserving, if you are a building receiving money, it does have to go through the architect that the city hired. But if you were just going in front of a commission, there is not an architect specific that you have to hire. You can still do the work yourself, all of those things. That's not the same.
Yeah, there's two things happening in town right now. A preserving Indiana grant that has restrictions, and this historic commission, which is just a requirement of the preserving grant, but it is not one and the same.
Yeah, so you wouldn't so if you get money for your building and you do go through, I can stand up, sorry, I forgot. If you do go through the process with preserving, then it might be $100,000 because we have to pay Davis Bacon wages. You heard the spiel that they gave you. But outside of that money, so let's say there's 10 buildings, that $2 million is split between. You don't have to do that for your other building. You're never gonna have to hire an architect for the work you're doing. If you do work to the back of it, we don't expect you to hire an architect unless you want to. You don't have to hire certain people that we go through. There's not a list of preferred vendors. You have the full power still with your building. It is not the same. So your $20,000 project would still cost you $20,000. So I can see how that could be, but
the way this reads, it reads that once this commission's in place, then and your building's historic, then you have to comply by all these rules and regulations.
There's not, Greg can correct me, but there is not an architect that you have to hire. You don't have to pay Davis Bacon wages when you're doing all of that. That is not the same situation.
I'm not sure what requirements you're talking about, but if a historic district is established, yes, you will have to go to the Preservation Commission with these 3 or 5 permits. Present your project to get approval to move forward with the exterior changes to your building. So yes, you've got to go through that.
I mean, I agree that we need something in place, but this.
But there's not.
Let him finish, because I keep making a very valid point.
Yeah.
But there is no requirement that says you're going to have to hire an architect. Now, as an owner of a commercial building, as you know, area plan covers building enforcement and design. They may say you've got to submit it to the state because it's a public building. You're going to have public coming in there. So you may have to hire an architect to do something in your building, but that's not a requirement of the commission. That's state law that says you've got to have an architect seal on something if you're going to allow for a place where the public's going to enter. Okay, so that's 2 different things. The grant does have certain specific requirements, and that does require architect approval.
And that does require you to follow all of those guidelines.
Because
Because we get federal
I
funding.
understand
We
that.
we are following those, but this is not federal funding or federal requirements. It's separate from the interior standards.
This is to piggyback on Greg's example, if somebody wanted to slap up metal on the side of the building right here downtown, this commission would not allow that. Right?
Perhaps.
They would.
I mean, we have to establish the rules, and we gotta establish a commission first. That being said, if you just wanna spend $20,000 on an awning, there's ultimately gonna be a commission that probably includes 3 of you local buildings. There'll be 5 local people that have established a set of rules on what's gonna be allowed and not allowed downtown, and you can do your work for $20,000.
And there will be published guidelines that you as a property owner have available, they're public documents that outline what's recommended and not recommended, so you know upfront. It's not like it's an arbitrary, like, oh, tonight we're gonna not approve any awning that comes before us. It's not that kind of a program. They provide guidelines to provide you guidance, and I mean, sitting, I know what the work you've done on your building, you put quite a bit of an investment in that building. I don't see anything that, you know, where this would be a problem for what you're doing. You've been a good steward of your building in your downtown area. I think you want other people in downtown also to be good stewards of this building, and this helps to make sure that everyone, you know, there's an expectation in the community that we want to raise the bar, we want to include, we want to see property values. To your point, and I've given Autumn this, and she's glad to share this with you, I've offered this to the mayor earlier today as well. There are numerous studies. The most studied thing in historic preservation economics has been the economic impact of local historic district designation. And what they've heard is what you just said. Oh, it's gonna depress property values, it's gonna depress investment. People are not, absolutely the opposite has happened. In virtually every case, property values have increased and investment has increased in protected areas.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Please have a seat, Simeon. If you have more comments, please move forward.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yeah, Aaron.
So I'm Aaron Dales. We're talking about basically remodels, correct? On these buildings. What about new construction? I currently own a piece of property on 3rd and Nolan that is a blank slate.
That's a great question.
I don't know, but maybe I'm standing up here for nothing, because I don't have a mind to look.
It won't be within the commission district.
It won't be, but there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that I believe the dimensions in there, new construction fit within the same district, right? We don't wanna slap up a metal sided whole building.
But I didn't know if that my piece of property is going to be.
It is not within that district.
It is not.
It is
within-
No, it's not within the district.
So I won't even be coming to.
You won't have to go and
You
try
mean,
to.
obviously this.
You mean the other area plan, yeah.
Just area. But, for instance, what if there's new construction? How does that?
I believe
And I
that
don't
will be
know,
addressed inside this.
Doesn't pertain to me, but maybe something.
It would be the same
Good
process,
question.
that they would fill out an application, like everyone else did if there was a change, and then it would just go in front of, but like Darren said, it's mostly just, we don't need to put a pole barn in the middle of downtown, but I don't think that anyone is gonna discourage it.
And then one more question, if you are redoing some work, or if you're doing some work and you actually need the funding from the grant, are you able to use your own contractor, or do they have to provide their own contractor under their guidelines?
They're gonna
If
follow.
you're getting funding from Preserving Main Street, you have to go through our contractor. But those applications have already been open, and submitted and closed, and so because it's federal dollars, there is one architect that is hired, and then there is one contractor that is hired, that then subcontracts all that work out. So at this point, the only person who has been hired is the architect, and then the contracting, applications or submit for proposals will go out sometime later this year when the council decides to.
Design hasn't even started, so
Yeah.
once we get design, then it will go out for bid.
Construction contracts don't get signed, I believe, until like January of next year, or this coming year.
All right, thank you.
Next.
You had raised your hand earlier, hold on, one second, she had raised her hand earlier and I forgot.
So I'm Tia Gray, so I own 3 of the properties downtown. One of them I have already renovated, which probably if I had to go through the board, my paint color wouldn't have been approved. So if I decide to board my buildings up and not work on them, am I going to be fined for not completing my projects? If this goes through? Because I'm in the process of renovating them now,
How do you mean board your building?
I'm just not fixing them.
I think if you boarded up your windows, you'd have an area plan commission problem,
Yeah, I think that would be more.
Well, I'll put windows in them, I'm just saying complete the project as far as making them.
No, there's nothing retroactive to what this is happening to. You're not gonna have to repaint your building or anything like that.
And I mean, you say that the commission wouldn't approve the paint there, I think that building looks amazing, I mean, you did a great job with it. I don't think it's fair to this potential commission in our future, in the city to say, well, I don't think they would approve it, because we don't know, right? And it's already there, so.
But, so I looked at the Great House building before it sold, and the whole reason I chose not to buy that was because I did meet with Greg on, well, the guidelines and feet for that building. I chose to buy my buildings because I had no guidelines on them. You know, I put the deck out back, and that was leaps and bounds to try to get that up. And just working between Nash and the park theater is a full-time job, and then to have this board, now that I have to take time to get approval for things that I do.
I think a little, and again, I know in your world, time is money, but I think a little extra time to protect what you're doing and what others have done is a good thing, not a bad thing.
But if I chose not to finish out the buildings, I'm not gonna be fine.
No, you won't have to submit anything to a committee for a plan that you don't have. I mean, if you're not moving forward, you're not moving forward.
But then when I do move forward, if I decide to, then I would have to go in front of you.
You would, but they would hope, I mean, every person sitting in this room, you guys are the people who are investing in downtown. Like, you are the voices. Keep in mind, I am not the commission, I am just here to assist. You're the voices that we want to hear, so you're going to be making those guidelines. You are all the ones that have preserved downtown buildings. So there are not guidelines that are gonna be set that you don't necessarily, but you can't, like, if you don't wanna finish a project, they can't come and say you didn't finish a project that you never submitted to them. It's your building, you get to do what you want with your building.
Well, you,
So if you have a
but
committee,
you open yourself up to area plan commission items such as blight.
Yeah.
You know,
Which is
things
separate.
that nature.
and
If
I
the buildings
happen,
are involved.
I happen to buy the buildings that was condemned anyways, so there's nothing
I
there. So,
But that's not.
because if we have a committee of 5 people, right? And those 5 people have different items or ideas than I do, or have different tastes, then I'm having to fix my building to what they want.
Right, which is why the process for creating these guidelines is going to be long and intense, and it's gonna be very publicly involved, because you're right, you don't get to, if you don't have the same as everyone else, but also these 5 people, whoever sit on that, and it could be you, who knows? The 5 people that sit on it, they aren't going to be just deciding that day when they wake up what they want to do. They're gonna be the guidelines that you guys set that you have to follow, that they have to follow. So it's not like they're gonna wake up and be like, we decided that we hate decks, because I personally, I think your deck looks fantastic. That's not how that's gonna happen.
With the revisions we got, should we table this until they come back and rewrite this ordinance?
There's nothing to table, Pat. This is just the first reading. Yeah, you won't vote on it tonight. The second reading and potential adoption with changes will take place at our August 24th meeting.
So you'll have all the changes made, we'll have a document to review, and hopefully we'll get the document ahead of time so we can review it.
The second reading doesn't mean that we can have multiple, we can have multiple, or whatever.
Make adjustments.
Yeah, that seems awful quick, 2 weeks to make all these changes in the second reading and have public meetings in between.
There's only 2 changes.
We're making, the thing that we're establishing is that we're establishing to create a commission. It's not establishing all the do's and don'ts.
So it's saying
We're establishing the framework of the commission so we can move forward and be in compliance with the preserving Main Street grant. And then after we create the commission and the body gets set, that's when the public discussion will happen between Main Street representative, city council representative, and the building owners in the community. So what we're doing, we're trying to establish that we're going to have a commission. That's what this document is all about. It can be, there'll be some minor modifications made to it, but we'll be moving forward.
The ordinance is just to seat the commission, and then from there, community members, city council, Main Street, whoever is involved will then create those guidelines, but then we'll still have to come back in front of everyone and be voted. I do have a clarifying question though, so that we, are the only changes that we're wanting to see maybe to be the ordinance to the number, or is there more that Kayla should be aware of?
That you're just changing it from 5 members and then.
I have to go back and look, but I wanted to change to say
Also
that
that they
have to own a building in the city, not that they have to live in the city.
Right, but is that the only changes we're looking at regarding that? It can go in front of you guys many times, I just also want Kayla to be as effective as
That
we can.
was always.
I think,
creating that second reading on the 24th, I think we need to move to the end, those in front of it tonight. It's in the 24th.
So I need a motion to make those two, to direct Taylor to make those two amendments. Andrew makes the motion, Jared seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 3-1. Pat has the nay. Okay, so the amended ordinance will be put before you on August 24th. Autumn, you're still up. Dora update.
Oh, sorry. The Dora update is that Dora has been approved. Those
For
who,
those in attendance, Dora stands for the
Dora stands for the-
outdoor refreshment area that was created.
so in that approved application, Derek, you should have gotten an approval letter in the mail. So Derek and then Natchez has been approved. There will be room for other people to get their beer and wine license to apply. I'm happy to help anyone along with that process. The next steps are to get those signs put up, and then I'll be going around having individual conversations with all the building owners that are in that district, because they have the choice to say whether they're open to Dora or close to Dora, meaning if people can carry drinks inside their building or not. We will provide the window stickers for everyone. We will also provide the stickers for the cups for Millers and for Natchez indefinitely. So whenever they need refills of those stickers, they'll just come to us. We're just working on getting those signs up. I'm gonna work with him to figure out how we go about that. And then, I had something else.
There's been a push to potentially officially close the alleyway from next to FC Tucker to vehicular traffic.
No, to not be vehicular traffic, to. It is not officially been vacated. We would like the city to vacate it to pedestrian. No? Vehicular?
There's two bollards up there.
Right. So in order to paint it and put tables in it, I believe there's an actual, we would like to, we have, Brittany has been talking to Jessica, she's been, about putting tables and chairs, and making that more of like a sitting alley, and we've also talked to the church about it. So is there something that needs to be done for us to do that?
I didn't think there was anything recorded where it had been vacated.
Right, that is.
I know there are a couple bollards up, so we can drive through, but if you wanted to make it official, let's just, that it's only open to pedestrian traffic.
Is it on our,
Still an alley.
It is still, yes.
so we vacated, who owns it?
You still own it, you're just vacating it to pedestrian, not vehicular. So you're not vacating it altogether, it's still your alley.
That would be good.
Technically, the motion there is.
I'll make a motion to
Yeah,
close
you might have
the
to work with that into your building.
Jared makes the motion to close that alley for vehicular traffic. Andrew seconds,
Just from the street, existing ball.
It's just within the already closed area.
It's the entire alley from the front of the building
Yeah.
to the back.
It is the art area that is already
Well,
closed.
the alley goes all the way through
Right.
Just to the back of the
Just,
back of the
just
building.
where it's, yes, already,
Just to the back of the building.
yes, not the whole alley,
Yes, to the back of the.
yes.
We have a motion and a second, now that we've clarified, Andrew second, make that Charlie? Okay, yes, any other questions for all? All in favor, show of hands, all opposed, that motion carries 4-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chief Messer, SOP updates.
We'll just make this quick. You all should have a copy of the proposed changes to SOPs in front of you. A lot of this is going to be pertaining to PT standards. The academy has changed what they're doing for entry and exit PT standards. It used to be a traditional mile and a half, 300 meter threshold setup. It's vertical jump. Now it's more of an obstacle course. So a lot of that is going to distinguish the difference. For our hiring process, we do what the academy used to use, again, mile and a half, so forth. We also have an obstacle course very similar to what we see the academy run. We feel like if a candidate can pass both of those, they can pass the one obstacle course at the academy. But also every full-time officer still runs through both those courses. So once they're hired, that's not the end of it. Every year we still run through the mile and a half, all that formal PT testing, as well as a obstacle authority, just outlining, kind of establishing the difference involved.
How many questions for Chief?
I have one.
Okay.
On the general order 23, the operation pullover,
Yes.
compensation usually granted.
Yes, that is all grant funded, forget land approximately 3 years ago. That grant said also speaking to city buildings on for working that, so that's why that's outlined in there.
And that they have to be paid.
Yeah, if they have to come paid out, they cannot, choose to take comp time or anything like that, it has to be paid.
Okay, then looking for a motion to amend general orders 20, 21, 23, and 28.
So moved.
Barry makes a motion to approve the changes, Andrew seconds the motion, all in favor? All opposed, that motion carried 4-0 as well. Anything else for Chief while we have him at the podium? Thanks, sir. Tim, any updates? Street department, Eric, Bobby? Joe, I think you're Joe now. Any?
No.
You good?
Go ahead.
Press? Clerk's office? No. Legal team?
Nope.
City council? Okay. Yes, Jeff. Any additional public comment?
Yeah,
Yeah.
How come it took-
Get to talk.
talk about these old broken down buildings and houses, how come it took back in the horse and buggy days? And some of these buildings is back in way back in grandpa time. What are you gonna do about the cause, thing? You can't touch some of these buildings, cause back in those days, they say no,
Times are changing.
So I ain't show up the city council one, but I take 3 months off in the winter time, give you guys a break. Thank you.
T, you wanted to speak earlier, and I kind of cut you off, so I wanted to.
Well, I had a couple questions about the ordinance,
Okay,
but I think you answered one of them.
okay.
Property manager, 2 buildings downtown. Is it my understanding that there is nothing in the ordinance as far as guidelines, what we can and can't do, that this is just basically a planning ordinance?
This is establishing the commission. Once the commission is established and the seats are filled with that commission, there'll be public discussion about what it is that we're going to make the ordinance under.
Okay. And as property owners, can we get a copy of the proposed ordinance?
Yeah, it'll be, but we're not there at all.
Well, I mean, the first reading, can we get a copy of this?
Yeah, you can take mine.
I can also send
I've got
everyone
digital
copies.
copies.
Yeah.
I can send you all a copy.
Yep, we'll get to you.
And I will make a comment, utility related, I drove up Woodbine before I came down. The storm drainage process is moving along very well. They've got the west side of Woodbine done. They're still working on the pit on the east side. They have started running the storm drain up the hill. And they have also this week started on the new water line, which is going to be run from Greensburg to the base of the hill, correct, Tim? Correct. Yeah, they've also started on that, so that should all be done this fall and be in good shape for CCMG next year.
Thank you.
One of the things I want to make note of that Terry just mentioned is that he is a property manager. So he doesn't own the building, he doesn't rent the building, he's a property manager. So the language in which that may need to be addressed in here.
Depends on if we want to include property managers or if you just wanted the people who actually own the buildings to be.
Well, I think the building owners, but correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, but he manages the property.
Can language be something like the property owner or their designated agent? Yes. Especially for like nonprofits or other people who, like, Park Theater, for example, they have a whole board. I think that might be helpful then, because someone else could come on behalf of them. Especially if you have a building that's only if you're married and it's only in one of your names, or if you have a business partner, I think that it would make the most sense if you both can, or if they can come for you.
I have no money invested, but I got a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, all three buildings. Especially the one.
Okay, we have approval of payroll claims for the July 31st payroll, the amount of $210,336.93. Make a motion to approve that. Andrew makes the motion. Do I have a second? Pat seconds the motion. Oh, we were going to return our payroll last week. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Claims docket tonight in the amount of $310,951.80. The claims of note, Charlie, that you'd like to mention?
$90,000 being paid to the Jennings County 911 is the first half paying amount, and run keep for $42,000.
Nearly half. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Charlie? If not, a motion to approve claims. Baron moves. Andrew seconds. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. And with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
You got done before 7.
Applied. Jared makes a motion to adjourn the meeting. Baron seconds. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Meeting adjourned at 7:01 PM.